Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Spent the morning rearranging stuff. It wasn't that difficult. I'm not sure this is going to be a permanent arrangement, but so far it's working okay. This was a waste of a tall shelf. So some of the Phalaenopsis from the black tables have gone in there, and they've replaced the pinguiculars, which have come over here. This was another waste of a tall shelf. Well, it wasn't before because there was a mesh on here which wasn't really getting used. The only thing that was sitting on there was the hibiki. So I put the pinguiculars down there, and this Phalaenopsis has got a very tall spike, so another couple of Phalaenopsis have found a new home, and the hibiki's gone down one but has nothing extra above it, so it's still getting roughly the same light. With a little bit of squashing up over here, I've got that Phalaenopsis there, because that is a very tall one, and I do like to see it, it's a nice plant. So I haven't touched the Cotylogenes, I haven't touched that top shelf. The plants that were on there, the Hancockii, the bush, has gone down there, as has that one, because that's finished flowering now. It's just that last little spike is going over, so it's finished. That freed up that to allow me to put the pelargoniums or geraniums there. They've been trimmed. Some of the plant has actually been cut off, and some of the taller bloom spikes have been cut down as well. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to get at my mounts easily. I don't want to start making work for myself. Nothing got touched up here or up here. Everything stayed the same. These two tables don't encroach on the door. Yeah, I can still get to the door. And 3 trays are fitted on there quite nicely. I could get 4 on, because they can hang over the edge a little bit. Obviously, if 3/4 of the tray is on the table, it's not going to fall off. So I could get another tray on there if I wanted to, which once we start repotting, I'm sure I'll need to. But there's spaces. I mean, these trays aren't full. This middle one's quite full, but the other 2 aren't. There's gaps. So, and this shelf here, there's only one plant that's tucked in behind the table, and I can still reach it. So I think that's worked out okay. I think I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, could be pollen. Not from in here, it's from being outside. So the trays needed a lot of cleaning up. They've been down in the shed a long time and had moss in them. I wanted to make sure they were clean. And I think the Disas are going to use a fair bit of excuse me again. It's unnecessary. One should do the job. Yeah, these are going to use up a fair bit of RO water. This water is going to need changing relatively frequently, and it needs to be relatively deep. The fuller the trays are, the more pots that are in there, the less RO water gets used. Filling up empty space with RO water is a bit wasteful. But anyway, I've arranged them. We've sort of gone pink through the oranges and the yellowy bits and on into the deeper reds over here. So, and the little white one on its own. So I'm quite pleased. The only downside is I cannot see these when I'm sat at my laptop because the screen is in the way. The big screen that I use is high up so that I can see it over the laptop. So I can't see these while I'm sitting down, but with Mojo coming in and out and my trips to the garden and everything like that, I will see them very frequently. And once the blooms are over, you have to appreciate it's just a sea of green. It's just like pots full of grass. So nothing much going on unless there's blooms to look at. Now the next job I've got to do, which is tedious to say the least, I've got to document these and photograph them. What I do when I take pics, I use them in pop-ups. You've seen them in the videos where I pop up a picture normally on the right hand side. Well, obviously I've got a stockpile of pictures of everything that I've got that's ever bloomed, and the file name I use is the name of the orchid so that I can find them easily. So these will all be Disa something or other. And they'll form quite a lot of new blooms. Now some of these, the blooms are going over, they won't make very good pictures until next year, but they're going to have to do. You know, I'm going to have to document them. So literally I've got to film them in nice close-up, you know, nice and still, get a nice steady video, and then from the video I take the stills and I take them into my photo editor, tart them up, you know, crop them, get rid of excess surplus stuff, sharpen them up and everything, and try and make the best photo I can so that we can use them in pop-ups in the future. So these are up the brightest light end and relatively low down in the grow room, so they shouldn't suffer from the heat that collects up in the roof that's got no way out. The circulating fan distributes the air so that relatively there isn't probably that much difference between the top and the bottom of the grow room, but nonetheless the fan doesn't stay on 24 hours, so I shut it down at night. So these are in a relatively cool spot as far as the plants are concerned because they're quite low down. So there we go, and my little Sarracenia is sat in the water as well. So that's up the back there, so that's got some, I keep forgetting to top the tray up, so I won't need to worry about that now. That's sat in water, so that'll do fine there. And there we go. So tedious documenting to do, update my notes with each one of the plant names, and a brief description of the blooms, when I got it, when it was last repotted, like never, and I can safely say what it's potted in, and I can't really say much about the root systems because obviously I'd have to take the plants out of the pots to do that, and I'm certainly not doing that. So the state of the roots inside these pots is unknown. We will start finding out as we come round to repotting, which we will need to do. So there we go, set up. Hopefully this is their happy place and that they'll do okay. I did check with the grower, something I was a little concerned about, but he leaves them standing in water through the winter. He said they stand in 2 inches of water permanently, and I make sure it's fresh. So let's follow suit. If it works and produces these, you know, with such great numbers in the pots, then you just follow the advice. There's no point in trying to fix something that's not broken. You know, these have been grown okay, so we'll follow along at the same lines and see what we can do. And come next year, when we start the new blooms coming out in the larger pots that have been split into 4, we might have to find some new homes for some of them. But initially I would just like as many blooms as I can get. So for next year we might not be parting company with too many. But if I've split a large pot into 4, 1 or possibly even 2 can definitely go to somebody else. But they would have to assure me that they can cater for their needs. You know, this is not a kitchen windowsill job, not really. They like the high humidity, they like buoyant air that moves, doesn't have to be a gale, and they like absolutely clean water, you know, so tap water is not going to do anything for these, it'd probably wipe them out. They don't like any form of salt build-up or anything like that, so they've got to stay in clean water. Just imagine that the water has come down off the top of a mountain, either from rain or from melting snow, and these are planted, you know, alongside the streams or sometimes actually in the water. Now that's where they live, that's clean water. So, you know, this water hasn't suddenly surged down a dirty garden path or something. You know, these rivers have been flowing for centuries. So they've washed a path that's clean. So that's the goal. Clean water, no build-up of salts, good light, as cool as possible. But the guy said they don't mind heat if you've got the humidity, and they don't dry out, you know. So he said when we get these little mini heat waves, he said all mine do okay, you know, they just put up with it. I don't think they would put up with it for 6 months of the year. That's a different thing altogether. So, and give it another month, and I suspect the sun will be off of this roof. So we won't be getting the 28, 29 degrees during the day. We'll be sitting down at, 23, 24, which is much more suitable. So there we go. A new genus, second attempt, not my first. And, you've just got to admit that these are pretty spectacular blooms. See you next time. Bye for now.